What's going on, guys? Today we're talking about the voice in your film, and I would say the voices in your film are probably the most important part of your film because they're usually the people you're telling the story about, or at least they're the people who are going to be telling the story. And to get the voices in your films, you need to conduct interviews, and I'm so surprised how many films that I get to consult on or people who send me their documentaries who just don't prepare for interviews that well. And I'm going to do a separate video about actually doing good interviews and how to conduct good interviews, but today I want to talk about the styles of interviews. This is actually really important for your documentary to determine how the voices are going to come across in your film, what style you're going to do the interviews, because the genre of the film will dictate the style and the feel and what it's going to be like. But it's really important to know your genre. All good films will stick to one or two genres, and that's okay. You know, sometimes putting some boundaries on your work will actually allow you to be more creative within that space. But today I want to give you guys a list of different styles of interviews and kind of explain how they work. And I just wanted to quickly mention today's sponsor for our video, and that's none other than Skillshare. And if you're not familiar with Skillshare, it's an online learning community where millions gather together to take the next step in their creative journey. And I just took a big step recently in my creative journey where I realized that I'm actually not that efficient with my time. So I actually took a course by Greg McEwen on Skillshare, and man, it has had a huge impact on my work efficiency. Just a few quick tips that he gave me have really changed the game for my efficiency. And what's great about Skillshare is their courses are quick. Greg McEwen's class was 45 minutes long, and to be honest, I spend more than 45 minutes every day in distracted work, and his courses really helped me in that. And that's the great thing with Skillshare is there's so many different types of classes, from learning how to bake to filmmaking, and in my case, learning how to be more productive. And what's great about Skillshare too is it's only $10 a month. And also I'm giving away a 2-month free trial to Skillshare right now to the first 1,000 people that sign up. It went really quickly last time, so make sure to grab that. The link is below. Make sure to sign up. 2 free months. There's nothing to lose. There's so many different courses, and I know there's one right for you, but let's get back to my tutorial. Oh, and also I have a little secret at the end of this video if you want to check it out. So you can scrub forward to that or watch the whole video. It's your choice. I'm not going to force you, but check that out. So let's talk about the different styles of interviews, or the different ways you're going to get your characters' voices through the film. The first I would call is in the moment passive. And what I mean by passive is that they're not interacting with the camera. You're getting them to say what they need to say about their journey, about their emotions, about what's happening in a passive way where they're talking aloud. They're allowing their thoughts to be heard out loud on camera, but not directly to camera. It's as if the camera is the passive observer. They're not actually part of the scene, but they're gathering what's happening. And now why I started off with this one is this is one of the more difficult ones because you as a filmmaker need to be present, you need to be recording in a way that doesn't bother the people, but you also need to be asking them questions sometimes off camera to provoke their thought. So this scene from the film Transformer, which my creative partner Michael Del Monte made, it's a really incredible film. Go watch it. It should be on Netflix. Or if you haven't seen it, you can watch it on iTunes as well. But this scene when he's getting his main character's mom to talk about what's going on in that character's life, Michael is a passive observer at the table where they don't really look at the camera.
When Matt first called me, for a while I grieved. I couldn't sort my feelings. I thought, why in the hell am I? But it was almost like Matt died. And I talked to my middle son, and he said the same thing. He said, I love Matt. I don't know this, Janae.
Or there's this scene from a film I did for Nikon about an amazing photographer, David Yarrow, while he's talking to a wildlife expert, Kevin Richardson. The camera's here on the outside and they're not acknowledging the camera, but we're gathering what they're talking about. This would be an in-the-moment passive, where there is a moment occurring, a scene is unfolding, and we're gathering what the people are talking about, and it's gonna help progress our film, but they never acknowledge the camera. So simply put, in the moment passive is allowing a scene to unfold where people are talking about the story that you're shooting, but they don't acknowledge the camera. Now, number 2 would be in the moment active. Now, I've kind of coined these phrases. I don't know if they would be taught in film school, but they're just what I use to determine what style of interviews I'm going to do in my film. So in the moment active is people not sitting down, they're in a scene, life is unfolding around them, and they're talking to the camera. Now, why this is powerful is it draws the audience in. You'll typically see this in documentary styles like Bear Grylls on his documentary series where he talks to the camera, he brings the audience in. It essentially makes makes the audience, the camera, part of the scene. They're acknowledging that they're being filmed. They're acknowledging that a film is being made. And I actually enjoy this. I'll implore this on a lot of my films. So even for No Country is an Island, we kind of did every style of interview that I'm talking about today in that film. So here's a quick scene where Amjad, we're visiting another victim, and we asked him a question, and he spoke to the camera as if the camera was a person in that room.
No one should go through what she went through and her children went through. She doesn't want anyone to go through what she went through. She suffered a lot. There was an evil power that came upon them on that day, and it was God that protected them from that while everyone else around them perished, is what she's saying.
It's very powerful using these moments because you get what the person is thinking in the moment, and they can talk to the audience, and it feels like you're connecting with that character. Even for simple corporate style videos. I did this video for an aid organization in Haiti, and I got one of the lead builders, rest in peace, Cole Brown. He's an incredible man, one of my best friends. But he was on this roof here, and I asked him what was going on to explain how they were building the roof and what was occurring, why it would be better to build the way they are for earthquakes and such. And so he talks to camera in the moment.
We're on the roof of the school right now and we're just doing all the rebar, tying all the rebar. We're gonna pour a cement roof in the next few days. What we love to see is everybody working side by side. And we've got people from Canada working side by side with the local Haitian contractors. We love to be able to learn their ways.
The third would be what you're typically used to seeing is the talking head. I don't know if anyone's been watching The Last Dance about Michael Jordan, an incredible doc series. I'm loving it. There is a lot of talking head. Now, talking head can be directly to the camera, but right now I'm talking about when they look just off to the camera, they look at the director or the interviewer. This is talking head, where there's just a head in a room talking. It can be a person, their torso, their full body, but they call it talking head because you're just watching the person talk and recall what happened. Before we were talking about in the moment, passive and active, but now talking head, you're usually recalling a story that happened, what you were thinking in the past. Talking heads are great because you can get a person in a calm environment and you can get them in their head recalling what happened, but you need to go in with a bit of preparation. Before I do talking head interviews, I usually try to get on the phone with my subjects or the people I'm working with and ask them a few questions so I know where I'm going. The biggest mistake I see when people do talking head interviews is they don't prepare for them and they just get the person rambling. You should usually in a talking head interview know a beginning, middle, and end where you're going with that conversation so that in the film you at least have talking points that will help you tell a beginning, middle, and end. One style of talking head interview I do it, I call it the floating observer. That's where my camera is handheld. You can see here in this video I did for our church, the camera is a passive observer. It's not looking directly into the eyes of the person being interviewed. It's floating around them, but it's still a talking head. They're still recalling what happened in their life or a story that they're telling. This is one of my favorite styles of interviews. I did it in No Country is an Island. I do it on most of my films. And one thing I really like about the floating observer style is you can make it very cinematic. I did this for an entire film for Mercedes-Benz where we were just a floating observer doing interviews, but we made it stylish. We put glass in front of the lenses. We shot anamorphic on the Alexa. It looked gorgeous, and we were able to make it feel engaging the entire way because we were able to do that. It wasn't just a locked off interview. Now, another style talking head is the classic locked off. Here's a clip I did for a company called Great Quest. We shot this in Africa, but I had their CEO look directly into camera. This would be your typical locked off talking head interview, although the background is a bit more interesting than most corporate offices. I like getting people in environments that actually look as nice as the B-roll I'm shooting, so it isn't such this stark contrast when you cut between beautiful B-roll and someone sitting in an office. Now, one thing, talking head interviews can be a bit boring. You want to supplement it with engaging B-roll. They are very effective, but like I said, they can kind of get boring when it's just someone sitting there talking. That's why sometimes I like doing the passive observer because it looks a bit more cinematic. It's a bit more engaging. And the last style of interview that you can use in your film is the voiceover. And this is just simply when we hear the voice of your character. Now, I always like to be a bit safe. When I do a voiceover, I'll sometimes even still film it from a side angle. I'll just put them in front of the window in case I ever want to cut to them. In fact, I've done whole films where we just hear the voice of the character and we never see them until the end. Beauty and the Battle, the film I did for Nikon, we hear Deli Carr's voice through the entire film, and then there's just one quick clip at the end where we actually see him talking, and this is because he was getting emotional, and I wanted to show that. I wanted to see his face in the moment.
Every shoot that I do from here on, I want a picture out of every shoot. that works. And I got it the other day.
So I did a piece for a clothing company called Frank and Oak, and we just have voiceover for that entire film. You don't actually ever have to show your main character talking, you can just hear their voice. So I hope those interview styles helped you guys. Just to recall them quickly, there is in the moment passive. This is when you're capturing a moment unfolding and the person is talking aloud to maybe someone else or to just the proverbial audience, but they don't acknowledge the camera. The camera is just passive in the way that it's capturing the scene. Number 2 is in the moment active. That's where they're looking at the camera. They're talking to it just like I am, but there's a scene unfolding around them or they're in the environment. Number 3 is talking head. Exactly this, where you just sit and you talk to the interviewer. It's the classic, it's the most common documentary style that you see. It's very effective, but it's also kind of boring sometimes. And number 4 is the voiceover. This is just when you have someone talking over top of the footage. So I hope those helped, guys. I'm actually building a documentary course that's going to be going into these types of things in depth. I want to give you guys the most knowledge that I can from my brain to help you create better films. I get so many emails every week from people asking me to help them on their films, and I decided I want to create a mega resource, the documentary Bible of how to make a good film. So I'm working on that right now, and I cannot wait to release that. I'll be giving you guys more information about that in the coming months. But until then, I will see you guys on the next one.